Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees yet another week of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, dominating the box office domestically, expected to make another $22.8 million, even after a massive holiday weekend. It is still expected to hold around 50%, so it is definitely about the percentage drop that I was expecting it to be. It was definitely not at the higher end, where it would, again, the wheels falling off if it was around 60, 70, 80% compared to the holiday weekend. So at 50%, it's not the best number in the world, but it's also not the worst number in the world. So it's kind of, okay. It's doing fine. It's doing okay. It's going to cross $400 million domestically, which puts it on pace to be able to get to at least $450 to $500 million domestically by the end of its run, at least based off of the numbers that we're seeing currently, especially with the holiday season coming amongst us. I would say that chance and the likelihood of that is growing every single day of its release. And we'll talk about this in comparison, especially to the numbers for Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, as some people I think have tried to say, or have tried to look at the numbers and see that the gains that it made are gone, but that's not actually true or accurate. So we'll dive into those numbers. But we also have, of course, a brand new release in Violent Night, a Silent Night, a movie about a violent Santa Claus. Yes, looks interesting to say the least. Definitely has piqued my interest, so I'm going to try and go see that at some point this weekend. Hopefully, in addition to other films like Devotion, which I've heard pretty good things about, The Menu, which I've heard good things about, amongst other things. Before we go any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, that fire button if you're watching on Odyssey. Also smash the rumble button as well, and also make sure that you have the bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So as you can see, Black Panther Wakanda Forever expected to make $22.8 million this weekend, bringing its total domestic through Sunday to $400 million. So it'll be a little under $400 million when all is said and done. It'll be interesting to see those numbers. That would result in around a 50% drop in now, I believe, the fourth week of its release. We also have the brand new film Violent Night, $9.8 million, opening up at 3,500 screens. I can't words this morning. Violent Night expected to do decently well for Universal. Have not been able to look into the production budget for this film, so I'll have that updated with the weekend charting. But $9.8 million, a pretty respectable start, I would say, for a film that probably didn't cost all that much, but we'll have to wait and see just how much it cost, how well it's able to do during the holiday season, if it's going to be able to hold from week to week. And this, of course, is all in anticipation, because within just a couple of weeks, we have everyone's favorite movie, everyone's most anticipated film of the year, in Avatar: The Way of the Water, which is going to be a massive production budget, needing to make around $1 billion or so to break even. Yes, I know people have said, no, it's actually $2 billion. Based off of the production budget and based off typical standards, $1 billion is about right for the break even for the film. And it really doesn't surprise me all that much, because they are just way overspending on that movie to such an insane degree. And yeah, do I hope it fails? Sure, but I'm also being realistic and thinking that it's probably going to make well over $1 billion, and so it's going to make its money back. The question, though, is how much does it lose in comparison to the first film? I would say more than half of the audience will be gone. And then I think that if you look to then the prospects of this, the third, fourth, fifth going beyond, if we see that same law of diminishing returns for that franchise, do they justify, even though they've already spent the money, even though apparently the third film's already done, it's already finished filming, because they've been filming all of these movies, or most of the films, simultaneously to some extent. The big question is it going to be worth the money they spent already, in addition to the additional funds that James Cameron's asking for to do all of his CGI crap nonsense? But again, we'll be able to talk about that in just about a week or two. We also have Strange World expected to drop 51%. This film still set to be a pretty massive bomb, though 51% is not terrible. The film itself not making any money, not surprising there. Devotion in its second week is expected to drop 47%, which is not terrible, but on a $90 million budget, getting to only $14 million domestic is not good. So this film is really likely to be a box office bomb, as well, as I was saying last weekend. The Menu continuing to hang around, making another $3 million to $23.9 million. Again, we'll have to wait and see what those numbers are internationally as well. There's a Fathom event called I Heard the Bells. Black Adam is around 45% drop, making it $1.8 million. This film, as I said, is already a flop. It's not going to make its money back. The Fabelmans is still limited. I, again, don't really understand the methodology here. So hard to say whether the film's going to make money back or not. Take the Paradise, it's already made money. Top Gun Maverick is actually coming back in a limited release. It's getting released in some IMAX screens. So if you have seen it now on physical media and you have seen it now on maybe PVOD, I would highly recommend and encourage you, if you liked it, to go see it in IMAX, because honestly, it's an amazing experience and an amazing film, probably the best film of the year to boot. You then also have the quintessential quintuplets movie, which is getting a release from Crunchyroll, and then Bones and All, which is a film about cannibals, dropping 58%, and I really don't care that much for the film. Let's talk about Black Panther, though, because there are a lot of people who are trying to throw numbers at me and try to explain things, and but my methodology, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here are the facts of what we know. Again, based off the tracking that I've been using for years, the film has broken even. The break-even number for this film was $625 million. This film's at $682 million, so this is comfortably past it. So even if you were to add or subtract the break-even point to this, it's still making money. By the end of this weekend, it is likely going to be close to $750 million. How do I know this? Well, because if it's adding another $25 million or so by Sunday to 400, we can expect it to add another, maybe $20 million internationally. And so, therefore, you could see it gets close to $720 to $750 million, depending on how well it does in the international marketplace. Now, what some people are bringing up is that, it's actually all the gains that it made over Thanksgiving, it seems to stop. Well, here's the thing. If you're looking at these numbers and you're saying, look, it's starting to make more money, or at least Doctor Strange is starting to make more money in comparison to it. Here's the thing. This film is still at $374 million compared to Doctor Strange's $351 million at the same point in its release. They've already projected that it's going to get to $400 million by the fourth Sunday, whereas Doctor Strange was at $370, meaning the film still has a $30 million advantage at the same point in its release by Sunday's numbers. So with that being said, if then those numbers hold out, if that $30 million difference holds, $411 million was the end for Doctor Strange, which means $450 million is a kind of minimum domestically at this point, based off of that metric. Again, now we'll have to wait and see how well does it actually perform this weekend, how well does it perform the weekend after, and also once we have some competition with Avatar and the Way of Water, does it continue to make money? Does it continue to hold out during the holiday season or not? That is going to be a big, possibility or if factor. So $400 million getting to that is already going to be very impressive. It means overpassing Doctor Strange is already going to be a guarantee, and the question just is how much does it go over? If it's at least that $30 million, which is the difference right now, then we can obviously expect at that point, for the movie to have maybe that $30 million difference. And so, again, getting close to $450 million. But as I said, I think don't sleep on the domestic total in the long run. I would not be surprised to see this film get close to that $500 million mark. What we're not really seeing as impressive numbers with, though, is that international. Again, there are some people who are trying to say that $1 billion is still a possibility. At $307 million, I just do not see that as being a possibility at all. Some people might say, well, it still needs to be released in Japan, and so Japan's going to give it some money. Well, here's the original Black Panther breakdown, and guess what? The original Black Panther, Japan only brought $14.6 million off of a $2 million opening. So even when this film does release in Japan, the chances of it doing anything really to add to an insane degree is just not all that likely. So here's Wakanda Forever. As you can see, it's actually made $7.8 million, and so it looks like it actually already did get a release in Japan. I thought it was getting a delayed release in Japan. Okay. I was looking at the wrong metrics then, I guess. So, hey, Japan ends up not making all that much of a difference for it. Let's see, though, if there are any other countries listed, at least here, that the film is set to have a release in any major way. No. So it's opened up in all of the major markets then at this point in time. And yes, it's showing some respectable numbers, I guess you could say, in some of these marketplaces. But let's see, United Kingdom, $32.7 million, going back to here, $64.8 million. Is where it ended up in the United Kingdom. So this film is tracking behind in many ways, and that's why when you look at that $307 million international number and then compare that to the let's see here. Let's go back to the summary. The $634 million international number for the first Black Panther film, why I have some doubts about the film getting anywhere close to that. So I would still say that the max international probably is close to $400 million max. So right now, the more that these numbers come in, the more that they update, I'm starting to think $850 to $900 million as being its cap is a much more likely scenario, which would actually make a lot of sense. It would mean it would be above that of Thor: Love and Thunder, but just slightly below that of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And even though it is going to be much less than the $1.3 billion that it made, that the original film, that the first Black Panther film made, it's not going to be nearly as bad as had it, capped at around 750, because then you're looking at almost half the audience being gone. Whereas if it gets closer to $900 million, yeah, you're still looking at around a $400 million difference. But then you also take into account that around 100 plus million of that from the original film came from communist China. And so again, you're still talking there about hundreds of millions of dollars, which is still significant, still worthy of bringing up. And also the fact that the ticket price today is a lot higher than it was back in 2018. And therefore, overall, much less people, a lot less people are going to see this movie just factually compared to the original movie in even more of a way, right? Just even taking the numbers out of it for a second. But I'm a numbers guy, and I like looking at the actual numbers and the actual profit margins and things like that. And the fact is, this film is profitable. This film will probably end up getting close to or over well over $100 million in net gain profit. So this is going to be a win for Disney. The big question is, of course, how much of a win is it going to be? Is it going to be able to get to that $500 million domestic? Again, I still think that's absolutely within the realm of possibility. Internationally, though, I would say that the chances of getting it to $400 million, though possible, becomes a lot less likely, just because of the fact it hasn't, again, it's opened in all of the major markets that it's going to release in at this point. There's no sleeping gun that at least I can see at this point that's going to bring this film any extra money that it's not already making. It already saw making, I think, $30 million or so last weekend. So it's going to have that continuous law of diminishing returns. So you're looking at maybe an extra $20 million out of this weekend. Then after that, maybe an extra 10 to 15. And so over time, as you can see, yeah, you might be able to creep up close to 400 million, but you're not really going to get that much more and that much higher than 400 million. So that's why, again, if we think about a max scenario, a best case scenario for this film, 500 million domestic, $400 million international, well, math does that, $900 million. So $1 billion, as I said, really is not in the cards for this movie. Again, I know that there's a couple people out there that are just so gung-ho about that, but there's no numbers at this point, at the recording of this video, that backs you up in that. Again, you're just well-wishing at this point. Is it possible? Theoretically, yes. If you look at my charting on my website, you'll notice that is within the range of where this film was after 2 weeks. But that was after 2 weeks. We've now seen some time go by, right? It's been past 2 weeks at this point. And so these numbers are, again, updating in such a way. Sorry. Looks like there's technical difficulties going on in that way. But here were my original projections for Black Panther. It was a minimum of 779 and a maximum of just over $1 billion. Okay, well, we're not seeing this happen. We're not seeing it doubling what it made in 2 weeks. It's not showing those kinds of legs. So the chance of it getting closer to the average, right, of around 935 million is a much higher chance, but even less than that, probably getting closer somewhere in the end between 60 and 70% in its numbers, right, in its first 2 weeks numbers compared to its final. So even if that is the case, though, as I mentioned, you're still looking at well over $100 million in net gain profit when all is said and done. But what are y'all's thoughts about these numbers? Do you think that Black Panther Wakanda Forever is going to be able to get to $500 million domestic? I think there's a chance. I think there's a guarantee of $450 million at least. So really the question is, how much more than $450 million domestic does it get? And also, do you think that it's going to crank itself out to $400 million internationally and get close to that $900 million mark? Again, I think that's kind of a ceiling for the movie now at this point, right? Beforehand, when I was looking at the numbers, I thought maybe $950 million could be within its reach. As of the recording of this video, it doesn't seem like that is going to be the case anymore. So now I'm looking at a ceiling of between around $850 to $900 million, most likely, with a bare minimum of $8 to $825. Those are my numbers, though. What are y'all's thoughts about this? And also, what are y'all's thoughts about the films set to come out this weekend, specifically Violent Night? Do you plan on going to see it? Do you have any excitement for it whatsoever? And are you surprised to see films like Strange World and Devotion flopping at the box office? Two very different films, and yet both flopping. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, like the fire button. Honestly, smash the rumble button as well. Blessed Feast of Saint Bibiana, which is why half of my lights are red, half of them are purple for the season of Advent. Blessed first week of Advent to you all. And yeah, let me go ahead and shout out some people who have supported the channel. Anyway, you guys rock. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my November Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above. Starting off with Patreon with Father Luca Illich. Thank you very much, Father. Garrett Searles, Jaimir Irie Hymason, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Orange Hat Reviews, who you can check out on YouTube at his channel, Orange Hat Reviews, Rosetta Allen, who also has a YouTube channel that you can check out at Eagle Writer, and Miss Martin Muses, who also has a YouTube channel, Miss Martin Muses, and of course, the amazing Empress of the Universe, Tina B, who you can check out at her YouTube channel, Tina B, where she hosts the show with Stephanie B, one of my mods, and one of my Valkyrie, called Soup to Nuts. Check out Soup to Nuts, and it premieres pretty much every Friday. So again, shout out to all of my Patreon people, also to all my Subscribe Star people, starting off with Matt317. Check him out on Twitch at Matt317. The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. And ZK-Man you can check out over at xtheboundaries.co to follow him as he starts his podcast, and also for many of his musical musings as well. Check him out. Very, very talented guy. And then lastly, my locals peeps. We got Miss Minnesota Hockey Fan, How About a Hockey Player, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win, J.H. Schwalbach, Brett D90, and the amazing lawyer, Robert Barnes. Thank you all so very much for supporting me. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, go ahead and check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to special things like giveaways and also exclusive podcasts that I do with John the Flickpick Flickinger and other guests throughout the month of November and in the previous and the months to follow as well. And again, if any of that sounds interesting to you, especially the 4K giveaways, Steelbook giveaways, some of them that I have to give away this month are films like Starship Troopers on 4K Steelbook, Top Gun Maverick on 4K Steelbook, amongst many others. If that sounds interesting to you, check out the link and follow the instructions down below. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.